Hi, my name's Paul Durso and I want to introduce you to Simplicitree. Now before I do that, I want to thank JT and Charles for allowing me this opportunity to share the power of Simplicitree with you. As a result of what I'm going to go over with you, my life sales, annuity, and assets under management have completely grown as a result of the different things and the ways that I've used Simplicitree. And like any software or any system out there, the more you use it, the more you understand it, the more it can help benefit you or your practice and help you grow exponentially over time. And that's exactly what this has done for me. So let me jump in, give you a quick overview of how Simplicitree works. Once I'm done with this, further on down on this page, what you're going to find are other ways that you can use Simplicitree, whether you sell assets under management, annuities, or life insurance. I'm going to show you, in the words of Mr. Charles Perrick out there, some one-pager ways of using this system to expand your practice into areas that you aren't very familiar with, or enhance some areas that you're very familiar with, and even get better sales, larger accounts, or more wallet shares of the clients that you're getting now. So what I want to show you is how Simplicitree works. What we're going to do is we're going to break it down into two different areas for this video. The first one we're going to talk about is your base plan. This is basically where your prospects, where your clients are without your help. This is a general overview looking at their scenario of where they are, where they want to go, and the information that they need to plan how to get there. And you're going to tell them how to do that, which is really the value proposition of this software, which I'll get to in a minute. So for this example, we've got George and Cindy. George and Cindy are 65 and 61. They want to retire on roughly $100,000 of retirement income in roughly 2 years. Okay? If we look at their asset base, which let me explain what this means in a minute, they've got just over $1 million of assets. One of the very unique aspects of this software is how we organize investments. And when I started in my career years ago, I started at Morgan Stanley. I was very green behind the ears. I didn't know much about the business, so I wanted to be very sophisticated and I wanted to sound like I knew exactly what I was talking about. I'm sure none of you can relate to that. And over the years, I've really started to simplify my practice more and more and more. And as a result, I don't think I can be any more simple than how I use Simplicitree now. We use a tree for visuals. We use above ground and below ground investments to help people understand how we organize investments. Below ground investments, which represent the root system in a client's asset base, are made up of one of three things: either bank-backed investments, FDIC insured investments, government-backed investments, or insured investments, which Charles and JT know a ton about. So your life insurance and your annuity products really fit right down here in below ground investments. Everything else is above ground. I don't care what it is: real estate, stocks, mutual funds, direct participation investments, any other type of investments that you offer outside of bank-backed, government-backed, or insured are really above ground investments. We're not pointing out that they need more below ground investments. They will point that out to you. When they see their tree, typically most people that walk in are going to have a ton of above ground. And if you're looking to offer life insurance or annuity, I can tell you a tree that looks like this, where you've got 93% of their assets above ground and 7% of their assets below ground, is a great way of visualizing the need of the certain types of products that you offer. Just by looking at it, they're going to go, is that okay? Well, I can tell you, if we go through another 08 with 93% of their assets above ground unprotected, they're going to see a lot of volatility as a result of having 93% of their assets above ground. Another thing that I want to talk about is what's called the principal tax concern. The principal tax concern actually came out of a conversation that I had with Ward Bell in Arizona years ago, and it's what I now focus on to begin the conversation of talking about life insurance. I'll introduce it in the first meeting when I'm going over their Simplicitree plan, I won't necessarily bring up life insurance, but I will bring up what the understanding of a principal tax concern is. And let me explain that to you. Principal tax concern is an organization of their assets into two different buckets. You're going to have their qualified money, which are IRAs, 401ks, and alike. Everything that's tax deferred is going to be represented here in the blue part of this chart, where 66% of this client's assets, which is roughly $700,000 of money, out of their almost 1.1 million, 66% of it is going to be 100% taxable in retirement. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you might say, you're 65 and 61, your RMDs are right around the corner. Are there scenarios or strategies we can discuss to help you reduce your principal tax concern? Because every dollar you take out of that money, it's taxed at the principal level. 100% of your $700,000 is going to be taxable. Now, between you and me, nobody likes to hear that. They're instantly going to be thinking, well, can we have that discussion? I'm glad you asked. I'd love to have that discussion. And that can lead into quite a bit of life insurance strategies that we're going to go over in other videos. Another thing that I want to talk about where our software is a lot different is what you're going to see, these blue circles right here. They represent really the meat of this scenario. I don't want to soft sell the cumulative income need, which we're going to talk about in a second. But these three rates we're going to talk about very, very quickly. The first one is what we call the retirement rate. And if you look at any investment software planning tool in the marketplace today, what it basically represents is every bit of information that we have in here. They're not going to organize it like above ground and below ground and have this tree visual, but they're going to have all the same information. A lot of you use a lot of different softwares out there today, and you know it very, very well. This is going to use the same bits of information, take the same taxation and inflation concerns into account when doing its calculations. Where this system does it differently is how it calculates their rates of return. You see, the vast majority of systems out there today, what they're going to do is you're going to input all this information, and then you're going to have a question and answer session based around their tolerance for risk. And if they have a lot of tolerance for risk, you're going to put in a very high rate of return. And if they have very low tolerance for risk, you're going to put in a very low rate of return. But the entire system itself is based on what you're inputting for a rate of return to calculate all their numbers. This system through Simplicitree actually calculates that for you. So you don't even need to have the risk conversations. What I mean by that, this particular person wants to live on $100,000. They've got a year in retirement. Now we're going to inflate that for inflation purposes. We're going to tax that according to what we're estimating taxes. That's all going into the system. They're going to retire in 2 years. And that $100,000, what we're going to do is we're going to basically spreadsheet that all the way out to the days that they walk out in life, somewhere around 95th birthday. You might want to have that sooner or later. That's really up to you. But what we want to do is run them to some point in the future where we say, if we get me there, I guess we're okay. In this example, if you calculate all the withdrawals that they have to take out of their assets, they need to generate $2.1 million of nest egg income. Because if you look at their scenario, one thing you're going to notice is they've got some residual income. That would be like pensions, rental properties, anything that they've already invested in that's now paying them income that they don't have to work for. And they're, in addition to that, going to have Social Security income. If you add that particular income together, that's going to represent a portion of their retirement income that's already accounted for. And their cumulative income need, 56% of their retirement income is already coming in their front door. It's coming in from pensions and Social Security, which means their $1.1 million has to generate the balance. 44% of what they need for retirement income in the future has to be generated from their asset base. And by the way, this is what I believe, the vast majority of the fear in America today is how to make this happen. And the way I developed this software is to clearly show what they have to do with their money and then introduce you as the value proposition and how you're going to get there, which I'm going to show you in a second. But they're going to have to turn their $1 million into at least $2.2 million to make it work. If they can grow their 1 million into 2.2, they have no issues about whether or not they can afford retirement. But that's a tall proposition. Most people look at that and go, well, how in the world am I going to do that? Well, I can tell you, mathematically, you're going to have to average about 3.5% to make that happen over the rest of your life. So as long as you average 3.5%, your 1 million that you have today will be worth $11.60. Okay? That is nothing that you and I want to plan to achieve. We don't want to run anybody out of money the day that they walk out on life, but it's good information to know. I want to know that if I average 3.5% or whatever the rate is, it's going to be different for everybody, that they're going to have no worries of running out of money. Another one, this rate in the middle, called the preservation rate. That is, hey, we're starting with 1 million, little over $1 million. What if at 95, we want to leave $1 million? Well, I can tell you, you're going to need to average 4.67%, Mr. Client, to turn that into a reality. If you average 4.5% on your money today, you're going to give away to your heirs the exact same balance that you have today. Okay? The last one is called legacy. And this legacy rate is 6.88% for this particular example. I can tell you they're going to turn their almost 1.1 million into $5 million by averaging 6.88%. And again, those rates of return are calculated every single time you put different inputs in here. So those rates are going to change. They're not the same for everybody, obviously. But for this example, that's what they are. Whether you want to retire and spend all your money, preserve your principal, or leave a huge legacy, I can tell you, this person needs to generate about $2.2 million of retirement income. How are we going to do that? Because in their mind, they're sitting in front of you going, I see this big concern of nest egg income that has to be generated. How in the world are we going to do that? Well, we've developed what's called investment planning, where that's nothing that we've developed, but we added it into the software where there's a way, and this was very touch-friendly software. As you can see as I'm going through that, we can make changes really easily in the software right in front of somebody. I have a big touchscreen monitor in my conference room where I do all of my meetings, and it's just this size. And what we do is we actually adjust the plan right in front of them. And a lot of times our clients will stand up by the screen and they'll hit buttons too, and they'll start making some inputs. And you know what's amazing that takes place? When some of your prospects, or my prospects I'm sitting in front of, when they get engaged and they roll up their sleeves, so to speak, and they start understanding the planning process that we're using, and they start understanding the investments that we're recommending and why we're recommending them, they start to take ownership of their investment plan. And I can tell you, the moment one of your clients takes ownership, the sale is sealed and delivered. They now want their Simplicitree plan. For the first time, they've seen a software that can help them understand where they are, how they're going to get to where they want to be, and have the confidence that they're not going to run out of money. Because as they're investing their money and putting it to work, they're understanding the result of that investment. Because a lot of times we just sell stuff. And what we're selling is based on guarantees. It's based on what we think is good about the investment, but very seldom, although I'm sure there's a few of you out there, that sell income, okay? And I'm not talking about annuity income. I'm talking about investment income across the board. Every investment that you have drives income. And I'm going to show you right here. What we did is we took their 1.1 million. I'm not going to go into how we invested it. That's not appropriate to this video. It will be in future videos. But right here, we put their $1 million to work to drive income. Might have been in annuities, life insurance, or market-driven investments like dividend-producing stocks that drive income. And I can tell you, remember the 44% of income that they needed to generate? Not only did we generate that, but we gave them a 12% surplus. So now if you look down here where all that red was, and they had to generate all that income, and they had to turn their nest egg into actual retirement paychecks, and guess what? We've done that through our planning. So what I've just done, I haven't gone through a lot of how we did what we did here, I'm just showing you the benefits and the value proposition that I give every client that I sit in front of them. I show them in the base plan where their concern is and how much their money has to work, how hard their money has to work for them. Then we put the money to work in their investment planning section, and then what they're going to see here through their actual investment plan is how their money's working for them. So they're no longer going to be asking the question, well, why are you making this recommendation? Or how much are you getting paid on this investment recommendation? What's in it for you? Why are you representing this investment to me? Some of you from time to time might get that sort of question. We do not at all, hardly ever. Most of the time we're going through our meetings, the clients are like, how do we do this? When do we get started? And we actually even forget to talk about fees. Not that we don't talk about fees, but we're so inundated on how to solve their puzzle right in front of them that they get so excited they just want to move forward because they see the benefit, they see the rationale of why we're making the investment recommendation. This chart right here, the cumulative income need, in conjunction with the principal tax concern and the visual of above and below ground, no matter what style of investment you sell, annuity, life insurance, or managed assets, you will easily be able to adopt this system to help your office grow exponentially if you use it the way that you're trying to sell different investments. Like if you want to sell life insurance or annuities and somebody comes in and their tree is very high up top and they have zero root system, it's a logical, easy transition into annuities and or life insurance. Or let's just say they come in and they hate life insurance. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about annuities. Any insurance product out there they don't want to talk about. Or are their investments above ground driving any income? Are they helping solve the cumulative income need, the nest egg retirement need that they have to generate over the rest of their life? Odds are they aren't. There's a reason they're sitting in your office. And you're going to be the first person to help them clearly understand where they are, where they want to go, and how you're going to logically get there in an easy to understand system that allows them to have confidence along the way that the advice you're giving is in their best interest and not yours. So hopefully you've enjoyed this quick overview of Simplicitree and the power that's within this software.